Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be doing some photography indoors for once. I've got these sunflowers that were given to bought for my daughter for her birthday, and I've quickly nicked them and brought them into my room to do some photographs on. Sunflowers can make some amazing photographs if you can get them looking right. Hopefully I might be able to do that today. I'm going to be shooting two different films. I've got JCH Street Pan 400 film, which is a surveillance film used for traffic speed cameras, from what I believe. Quite an interesting film. And also AG for APX 100, which expired in 2009, so the original APX. And this is a real easy setup that I've got. I've got this wood here, this base wood that I'm using. I've got an old pallet that I got ages ago and put it in the garage. I thought one day that might be useful for some sort of photography. And I broke it down into 3 planks and I've stained it brown because I want these shots to be kind of dark and a little bit gloomy, a bit mysterious maybe. I don't really want too much highlights going on, so I kind of want it, you know, toned down a little bit low key. I've got a grey background here which I use for headshots and stuff like that in my room here. Another background here that I made a while back, you might remember, a mottled background from an old picture frame board. And I'm also going to be using the palettes for a background as well. So I'm hoping to get a few shots, maybe a couple of wide shots to get the whole vase in. Well, it's not a vase, it's a drinking water, it's a water jug, you know, for the pims in the summer. When you get all podsy and you want to play the tennis, then you get the pims out in the summer, give it to your mates and you feel really good. But I don't really like pims, prefer lager. Anyway, I've got window light behind me. That is my main light, is a big window behind me. And I find this sort of photography nice and relaxing. You can just chill out, do this sort of stuff at home, rather than going out on the streets and walking around and stuff and getting your shots, especially when the weather's bad. So without further ado, we'll crack on and we'll start off with the 400. I'll show you some of the compositions and the way that I change things around to try and get what I want. And then we'll get developing the films, get in the darkroom and make a couple of prints and see how they look. I'll show you the scans as I go along. Obviously you guys will be seeing them before I can see them. I'll be doing the scans later on in the edit, but I'm hoping to get in the darkroom and make a couple of prints of these sunflowers. So you guys have already seen the first roll of film that I shot. They came out underexposed. The very first 4 or 5 photographs on that roll of film come out underexposed. The rest of them came out okay because I bumped the exposure up. I just had this feeling that I wasn't shooting at the right meter level. I was using incident reading right next to the flower, back towards the camera, and obviously I'm aware that inside this sunflower it's pretty dark, and although I did want my images to be, you know, a little bit darker than normal, I don't want them to look middle grey, I want them to look a bit contrasty. I needed some detail in there. And at one point on the first shoot, I even tried to spray some of the petals. I thought that might look quite nice, but unfortunately on the water droplets, there was just highlights going on. And I knew straight away, if I go in the darkroom and try and print, they're just gonna look like white blobs. So I decided to scrap that idea. The only thing is, inside these sunflowers, you've got some sort of residue or something going on. It looks a little bit sticky, you know. So I had to use a razor blade to try and get rid of a lot of that stuff, and also some tweezers to pull it off, because it's just going to look like dust marks when I make a print. So I tried my best to eliminate that. So once I developed that roll of film in 510 PYRO, I came back to it again. I used another roll of JCH Street Pan 400. I thought, I've got to get it right this time. So what I decided to do was use the spot metering and get more accurate reading from the interior of the flower, because I want to get detail. I don't want this to be jet black when I go in the darkroom in a moment. I don't want this to be jet black. So I just did some spot metering on the lighter parts of the interior, the darker parts here, and come down a couple of stops. So if you can imagine, my meter would give me a reading for middle grey. I didn't want that because everything else would be too light. So I ended up shooting 1/4 of a second at f11, but I had to account another stop open for the bellows factor on that camera. So I was shooting f8 1/4 of a second, and I kept it at that all the way through the shoot. And this time the negatives came out nice. So I went right back to the start. The first few shots I did with the grey background behind me, and then I used the palette planks that I stained there. I'm going to keep those, they're going to be quite handy for the future. I'm looking forward to doing some more stuff with that. And also the grey mottled board that I made a while back, and I did another one on this white board as well, just put the flower there. Didn't really want this high key stuff, but I decided to do it anyway. And these backgrounds are real simple to make. There's loads of sort of backgrounds that you can probably find indoors that look good and complement this sort of photography. I do feel like the planks of wood actually works really well, but also the grey background behind me, that seemed to work well as well. Also even. So let's get in the darkroom anyway. I've got a couple of negatives in mind that I'd like to print. Hopefully when I go in the darkroom, I can try and get pull a little bit of detail out in the middle of this sunflower. So I won't let it go on too long in the darkroom, but come with me, have a look what I do in there, see if we can make a nice print for my home. So I've just started doing some tests on the first photograph that I took with the whole vase, the grey background and the palette as the base, and this Pim's jug for the tennis. You can see the test strips that I've done. These are in f-stop increments. I've been using an f-stop timer. I'll be pulling a video out on that at some point. And I started off with a base time at 10 seconds, and my second test strip here was 14.1 seconds. And everything was looking good, a little bit dark down here and a little bit too light on the petals, but obviously we've lost all the detail inside the sunflower. I didn't want that. So then I started to do tests of how long it took the time to hold back on the center part of that sunflower to get some detail in it. I managed to find that, and then I had to start working on the petals, so there was quite a bit involved. And this was the first print that I did at 14.1 seconds. Everything looks fine, a little bit dark down here, but I'm looking at this area here, which I used a little tiny dodge tool there just to cover the center of the sunflower, and I only gave that 5 seconds of light, so I covered that for the rest of the time. But the petals were a little tiny bit blown out, so I had to then try and control that. Which brings me on to the second print. I did exactly the same thing again. This time I just covered this area for about 5 seconds, just gradiented it down so I could see the base more, and what a result. I've got those crease lines in between the three planks. I think that stands out really well. And I burned the petals in, but unfortunately not enough here and here. So off to number 3. And there's print number 3. This time I dodged this area so I can get a little bit more light on the planks. I burned in the petals, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to look grungy. I didn't want it to look clean, like I said at the start. and I dodged the centre, so we've got detail now coming into this sunflower. And they're only 10x8 prints. I've been using, it's not Ilford, I'll put it in a box. I've been using Kentmere VC Select paper for these 10x8s, and I've just set the whole negative inside that 10x8 piece of paper. So I chose 2 negatives from the second film that I shot, and they come out really nice. This is one of them. I'm going to put this on my Etsy page, guys. If anyone wants to purchase this, I've got 2 of them going on from what I've made in the darkroom this evening. 2 of the sunflower shots here, and they'll be signed and sent off to whoever wants to purchase these on Etsy. If you want to support the channel, jump on there, I'll put the link in the description. I'm really happy with the way that this print has come out. A little bit of trickery, jiggery pokery, but it'll come out tickety-boo, I think. And like I said at the start, I wanted to go for this low-key, grungy look on the sunflower. I didn't want it clean. If I wanted it clean, I would have shot a cleaner film, maybe Delta 100 or something like that. But I went for the Street Pan because I know that that is quite a hard-hitting film, being a CCTV or a traffic surveillance film, whatever it is. It's actually a nice film, and I liked it on these sunflowers. The only tricky part with shooting these sunflowers was the dark part in the middle, getting the balance with that. With the petals, so a little tiny bit of dodging in the darkroom to try and make that work. Obviously Photoshop it's much easier, but in the darkroom is a little bit more tricky, but I managed to get there, and I'm happy with what I've got. I also made another print as well, which is this one here, and that was on the sunflower I placed literally against the wooden pallets, and I like the way that the background works, that rustic sort of, you know, rough and rugged look against the sunflower. I did try to do a little bit of dodging in the middle, but there was no detail on that sunflower on that photograph. But hey ho, I left it as it is, left it black with the petals around it, and just see how it come out, and I quite like it. What do you guys think? So just by seeing those sunflowers on the side that was bought for my daughter's birthday by one of her friends, I thought it would be a great opportunity to take those and take some photographs of them. Then it was the idea of, okay, what sort of backgrounds do I want to choose? I found that old wooden pallet in the garage. I thought that might work. I had to stain it because it was pine. That would have been too light. Like I said, I wanted this grungy dark look, and I think it came out really well also with the other backgrounds that I chose. Unfortunately, the first film underexposed a few shots, but we've been there already. I managed to salvage it and make good on the second roll, so I'm really pleased with the way that that went. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget those prints are on my Etsy page if you want to support the channel, or you can jump over to Patreon or become a YouTube member if you want to support the work that I'm doing in the darkroom and all the field stuff that I do. Much appreciated. If not, just subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. I'll catch you next time. Be safe.